Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Hey, we're here. Hey, everybody, welcome to the program. No intro music today. We're just jumping in. Jumping in. We can make mouth music if you really want it. Yeah, there you go.
Wow, Fromm just finally went to the Bills. It looks like Jake Fromm finally got drafted.
Yes.
Right when the show started. I mean,
who picked it? And the Colts, right? The Colts got Eason.
Colts have made a lot of good moves. So Colts have moved into my top 5 as far as best drafts so far, which we definitely need to get to.
They killed me yesterday. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if Pittsburgh would have taken him, honestly. But I just would have liked to have seen Jonathan Taylor go to
No, because in my opinion, they didn't kill you. Same with if you look at Dobbins or any of the other running backs that they didn't take. They were all there for the Steelers at their pick except for Jonathan Taylor. All the other running backs were there. Yeah. They still passed on the whole lot of them to draft a wide receiver. So they still had 3 or 4 quality running backs still sitting there. They ended up getting one in the 4th round from Maryland. I think that's what they planned all along.
Yeah, probably.
So
you said it, but you're like the guy that makes me optimistic every year. but this is a team that's really good at picking somebody late and making it an absolute star. So
and yeah, that's what the Steelers do. 2nd and 3rd round wide receivers, 4th and 5th round running backs. I mean, that's what their team's built on. So I want to say what Le'Veon Bell was a 3rd or a 4th rounder. Connors was even later.
Antonio Brown was late.
So, I mean, this is what they do. Their entire receiving core now is basically 3rd round receivers, and they're all great. So I got the guy out of Notre Dame. He runs a 4.39 40, and he's 6'4". So
they said the only one that's ran that faster is Calvin Johnson at that size.
At that size, yeah. So I mean, there's plenty of speedsters in the draft. Holy shit! But I mean, to get a guy that big that fast, it's funny that this year they're kind of staying away from the big speedsters. You're seeing a lot of small 5'11", shorter, fast guys go in the first couple rounds, and I think it's got to be because of the Chiefs, right? It's like a copycat league, so everyone this year is going like, "Fuck these big running backs."
Well, don't you feel like? And I know I don't want to jump around way too much. Actually, I want you guys to actually run this because you're gonna have better input on it than I am, but. That's kind of what I thought, even with the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts, is I was like, oh, okay, they want somebody mobile. Like they at least want their backup to be mobile.
Right. So that's everyone is either torn between like the Lamar Jackson effect or the Taysom Hill effect. Like, are they getting him because they eventually want to make him a starter like Lamar Jackson, or are they getting him because they want – it seems everyone else is saying more of the Taysom Hill thing. He's a beast. He's really strong. They can play him at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. The Saints have just showed how valuable a gadget guy like that is. And Doug Peterson, equally as good of a play caller as Sean Payton, if not better.
Yeah, and I also think Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that would be okay actually playing in a position like that. I don't know how if he's one of those ones that's like, no, I will not play unless I play quarterback.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he's one of those guys that's like, yeah, I'll play.
Yeah, I think he's just grateful to even, especially after his college career, I think he's just grateful to play. Because wasn't he injured all the time?
Well, no, he just got overlooked all the time. I mean, so Jalen Hurts as a freshman was the freshman of the year in the SEC, which is very hard to do. Second year, whatever. By the end of it, by the end of his 3rd year, that's when Tua came on and passed him in the national championship. So then he comes back for another year, so that would be his junior year. He comes back for another year, and Tua's the starter, so he has to sit behind Tua all year. Tua gets hurt in the play-in game to the championship. He gets him there, right? Like, he gets him to the national championship. Tua plays. Tua, I believe, loses to Clemson, and he transfers to Oklahoma. So,
and then he had a really good season in Oklahoma.
Oh man, he had a Heisman candidate worthy season in Oklahoma.
He was really and I'll say that's the only thing I'll say for Oklahoma is he was just as exciting as Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray in that position. Like,
well, that's the Oklahoma formula, right? Now they do it every year. They don't bring in their own guys. They see who's good in the transfer portal. Same with Baker. They move him into the starter because he's already ready to go. And then I would transfer there if you told me I have to start for 1 year and it could get me into the NFL.
And I get to play on an NFL team, and get a box of hats.
And get a box of all of the hats.
Get a box of all the hats. I would hang one around the whole room.
Is that what they get a box full of every team's hats.
I texted Zach like a child would, and I was like, "Hey, so do they? Hey, hey, do they know beforehand what team they go on? Because they have hat early." And he's like, "No, Derek." I feel like after you fucking explained it, I feel like such an idiot. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that makes more sense."
Yeah, they only have to send them 32 hats.
Hey, Zach, can you tell me what they do, how they get hat fast, how they know? He's like, yeah, they have a box of hats. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot.
Well, yeah, and it just I think that's a big waste of hats, but and then you think you know at the draft they just have the hats there, so
they send it back.
I doubt it.
They probably get to just give them to whoever they know that would like that team, which is kind of cool. 49ers trade Breida to the Dolphins. There goes Breida.
I was waiting and Marquise Goodwin to the Eagles.
Marquise to the Eagles, which makes sense. I mean, Marquise is always hurt, but the Eagles...
Same with Breida.
The Eagles, exactly. The Eagles did not address... They got Jackson from LSU, but they didn't address... Or not Jackson. I'll remember his name in a second. But they got a wide receiver from LSU, and everyone... basically said that they didn't address receiver the way they needed to. They only like speed guys. Deshaun Jackson looks like he might be hurt in his old age, so they want for a couple speed guys, and then Marquise is another one. This is interesting. And of course, the only reason the Eagles didn't probably get who they wanted is because the Cowboys, just to be spiteful in the first round, only to be spiteful, drafted a wide receiver. Like, they have two great young wide receivers.
Yeah, they have Amari Cooper. Like, what do you need?
And they draft CeeDee Lamb, who might be the best wide receiver in the draft anyways. Because they pick a few picks before the Eagles, and they know that the Eagles need it. They can say they needed a third wide receiver, but you would think the Cowboys needed other things more.
Yeah. Do you have some winners? You have some winners and losers for us, right?
Well, I want to talk about some winners and some losers, but I want to know you guys' just opinions on watching it so far.
Well, so I've actually enjoyed it. Believe it or not, okay, actually there is one thing that I was like, my one gripe about the event overall. It's annoying to me when they're still doing like the previous story, and then I'm looking at the screen and it's like Chicago's pick is in. I'm like, dude, move on. Let's know who the next one is. I mean, I get it. It's a TV show. They gotta, it's the same way every year. Like it's not different.
So notoriously, yeah, the first couple rounds they get you the pick while it's live, right? Yeah. And then after that, they start dissecting some of these unknown players. That way, as a fan, you get their highlight clip and all that because the rounds are faster after the first.
Which, by the way, everyone's dad and mom and son has died.
All of them. And they're all in families where they're all athletes. All of their brothers and sisters played college sports. It's the same stories a lot. And I'm not trying to underplay the ones that are really sad.
I don't know, man. That fucking lightning one is pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Some are more compelling than others, but they tend to dig up similar stories for anyone who doesn't have a story.
Yeah.
It's usually that their whole family plays sports or they came from a different country.
I just want just a regular dude who's just like, his dad's an accountant.
They showed him, man. They showed the regular dude. It was an offensive tackle from Boise State. They're like, local woman gives birth to elephant baby. Like, that kid was born 3 weeks premature, and if he would have been carried to term, he would have been a 15-pound baby.
Well, okay. So here's what's interesting about that guy. It's funny that they could have. I would have been way more interested in more of that story.
Same here. I was like, what?
When he was in high school, though, he was smaller than me, right? So even though he was an elephantitis baby, he the dude was only 5'11" in high school, like under 200 pounds, so he was small, and then he had a 5-inch growth spurt.
You know what? That feels eerily similar. Actually, I graduated high school at 5'10".
Right.
I'm 6'3" now. I mean,
right. So he went from like me body to you body, and
right.
like literally. But then
dude.
he was also a giant baby.
He was a big old baby, though.
Were you an 11-pound baby?
I was not. My sister would have fell out of my mom if I would have been an 11-year-old baby, 11-pound baby, and 11-year-old baby too. Full head of hair, full head of teeth.
Came out wearing a suit.
No, but otherwise, I like this. I like the format. I'm actually fine with it. I think I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I think Goodell can be funny sometimes, and I like some of the stuff that he's done. And I don't know, like it's because it's. You don't get him as like a full character when you watch the real draft every year, right? Like, but now he's alone in a room, so he's like doing whatever commentary he wants on each pick or whatever, and you're like, this is worse.
I actually don't even hate him that much. Why does everyone hate him so much?
I think that's just the thing. So back in the day, I mean, they even used to boo the commissioner in basketball, and David Stern was until he got older, but. Yeah. It's just kind of a thing in sports. I don't know why.
I think they're all just people just think they're all Vince McMahon.
Well, and I think he has kind of that dictatorship-ish feel compared to other commissioners.
Well, so. I felt bad when the Jets were booing him on like in the second round.
Oh, through the screen, they were a little harsher than everyone else was.
Yeah, I was. It was the first boo I heard, and I was just kind of like, he looks sad.
Well, it's because, like, yeah, he actually did look sad, and he was handling all the other fans well when all the other fans were booing him. But I feel like before they cut to him, like, some of the New York fans were, like, saying shit about his family because they're New York fans. No, I'm not saying they really did. I'm saying hypothetically knowing New York fans, they were probably like, your mother. And
Your mother.
Yeah, and they were probably, like, wishing, like, that his whole family got coronavirus, and then all of a sudden the camera cut to, and the Jets fans were like, we were being fine.
I will say, I guess I'm used to watching it on NFL Network or something because I will say that it's been a huge lack of Rich Eisen for me this year.
Well, so did you see what they did this year? They combined NFL Network with ESPN, and they had them on the same broadcast, which to me felt like nobody got enough airtime. So, like, everyone from NFL Network kept cutting in and cutting off the ESPN crew and vice versa because no one with 8 people. Nobody felt like, so I said, fuck it. Starting last year, if you turn it to ABC now, starting last year, you get the College Game Day crew. Like the guys who do College Game Day, the 4 guys like Kirk Herbstreit and the whole gang. Yeah. Desmond Howard. It's just so much better. And these guys know the players because they just spent 3 or 4 years commenting on them.
I just, you know me, I love Rich Eisen, so I'll just man crush Monday.
Yeah, it's like he got the day off and the rest of his crew had to keep working, though.
Yeah, because I would have loved to have seen him. I always think he has great insight, and but no, I'll watch his show on Monday and he'll talk about it. He'll be fine. Some of the picks though were really exciting. I couldn't believe that Jalen Hurts won though, and my phone blew up because we were all like, "What? Whoa! Shot across the bow, right?" I mean, could be.
I don't see. I think that team knows what that is. To me, wasn't it more of like the love to the Packers that I think was more of like a slap across the face?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I do find it ironic. I mean, it is ironic that Aaron Rodgers is now kind of in the same position that Brett Favre was back in the day.
I think it's pretty fucked up. Especially when you have one receiver that was your struggle last year.
Right. There's a ton sitting there at that spot.
I think it's a statement from obviously it's a statement.
Well, yeah, and it's like I mean Brett Favre got 3 more years out of it when that happened. And so technically Aaron Rodgers, if he got 3 years, he'd be 40 by the time Love came in, which I get. And then it seemed like they tried to make it up to him in the next 2 rounds because they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second at running back, and then they drafted a tight end in the third. So I think they got some pretty good offensive players, but not more wide receivers. So it almost seems like, because they don't even need a running back right now with Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. Oh my God.
It almost seems like those 2 moves are for the future as well. Like those guys aren't going to be good when Rodgers is still playing.
This is a good point too.
Well, they do need a tight end though.
They did need a tight end. I actually think, or it's Josiah. I think Josiah will play right off the bat. I just don't think it's been a very good draft for them so far. They're up there for me as some of the busts of the draft.
Yeah, and they traded up for it, right, Derek?
Right.
They
traded up for it.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, I think that's why they don't have a 4th, because they don't have a 4th. Like they've been quiet for a while. I've been watching, and that's why. But I actually a team that I think has had a pretty good draft. They're not in my top 5 or anything, but I thought they've been really solid. Is the Browns? I feel like the Browns have been actually shoring up a lot of needs that they had, and just kind of like quietly taking care of business. So if you're Shawnee boy,
yeah. Yep.
You should be pretty happy with the only 2 teams it seems like you care about. They seem like they're both doing what they need to do.
Before you give your good winners and losers, I'll say my winners. I think the Colts have had probably the best couple days.
They're top 3 for me. So yeah, I'll definitely have them on the list and have a couple reasons why. But actually, we'll just talk about them now because you got them on yours. I got them on mine. I think that they have. I mean, so their coach came over from Philly after they won a Super Bowl. It seems like their front office is just constantly just piping through these like young players. And the one thing we really haven't seen from them since this kind of new group came in is just a really like big breakout wide receiver. And so for their first pick, they get Michael Pittman from USC. And it just kind of seems like a no-brainer to go with Phillip Rivers, who's going to want to throw that jump ball in the red zone. But it's not just that. They got Jonathan Taylor, which I know pissed you off.
Yeah.
Julian Blackmon in the third, who was one of my favorite safeties in the entire draft. And then just a little like sneaky pick by getting Jacob Eason, quarterback from Washington, in the 4th. They probably got the biggest arm in the draft in the 4th round. They don't need to.
And that's not going to be a slap to Uncle Phil because he knows he's on borrowed time. He knows it.
It's not even a slap to Jacoby Brissett because Jacoby Brissett can still be Phil's backup this year because Easton's not ready to be a number 2 in case Philip gets hurt. No. And even if he is, all that means is Jacoby Brissett can get traded back to the Patriots. So it's a win-win for the Colts. They're going to get more out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're hoping Easton will learn from Brissett and from Uncle Phil. I mean, yeah, it's a win-win. They did great.
Yeah, and
I also as far as quarterbacks go, I also like what the Chargers did with Justin Herbert. I don't think he'll start. I think it'll be Tyrod Taylor. Easy.
Till he gets hurt.
Yeah, or they'll just bench him by week 6, but they haven't had a ton of picks because they didn't have a 3rd and they didn't have a 2nd.
I hope he doesn't get hurt, for the record.
I don't think he does either. I mean, no, Tyrod.
Tyrod's
one of my favorite quarterbacks. Yeah. Herbert will have plenty of time to be the future. They didn't have a 2nd or a 3rd, the Chargers, or they'd probably be in my top 5. But they had 2 first, and they got Kenneth Murray, who I think is the best or second best, probably second best linebacker in the entire draft. They got Justin Herbert, who is, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in the entire draft. So it's hard to say the Chargers didn't have a really good draft just from those 2 picks. And then they snuck in Joshua Kelly from UCLA in the 4th at running back. So they have a good 1-2 punch even now with Melvin Gordon gone.
Well, I also thought it was interesting just even yesterday not yesterday, day before, just how the first round was just so chalk. Just very
boring.
Yeah. And I would say the one non-chalk move to some people would have been Love to the Packers, but people were actually talking about it during the week. and it was either good or bad. Like, how bad would this be if this happened, or doesn't this make sense? And that was kind of a debate. And I mean, you can tell even Rodgers knew about it, because a month ago, there's comments on Rodgers saying he'd like to play till he's 40, and what his job is to do in preparation for the season is to go out there and show they don't need to draft a quarterback. Like, he even said that in an interview, and then they drafted one anyways.
Yeah. I don't know, man. You just hear about Rodgers being a little bitch all the time.
Well, so I mean, it seems like they pulled out those dongs of theirs and bitch slapped him right back.
I mean, you're disposable, man. There's plenty of quarterbacks out there.
Yeah. Well, and he's 37. Mm-hmm. So,
and a little. I mean, I don't want to say prone, but I mean, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
That and why
he recovers quick. In his defense, whenever he's hurt, he does seem to recover pretty fast. But
yeah. I will say one thing though, and I think I messaged this on the thread. There's one thing I've been thinking about a lot, and after watching the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance, I've thought about it even more. It's that GMs always want to move on sooner than they need to, which makes sense because for them, they don't want to have that lag year. They don't want to have that rebuild year if you're a premier franchise. Now, of course, the Bulls fucked up because they've been rebuilding ever since, but I think the Packers are trying to say, we know Love is a project, and we're not trying to put him in this year, but we also understand that we're going to want to move on from Rodgers before Rodgers is ready to move on from the Packers. Similar to the Patriots, where it's like, we wanted to move on from Tom Brady probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady wasn't ready to move on. And good for them, because they probably got another championship out of it.
Yeah.
By not moving on from him. But
well, and I also, Belichick just didn't he get a draft pick for trading a wrestler?
Yeah. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Didn't he get a draft pick for trading the current 24/7 WWE champion?
Yeah. Well, I was onto this theory a while ago, right? So Tampa Bay, he's already there for work, for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
He's already in the area. It's just like a quick hop, skip, and a jump to Tom Brady's mansion if he's in the right one, which he tends to not be. But
he doesn't have to be.
They were. Yeah, he could walk into. I bet when he walked into someone else's house, they were like, "That's Tom Brady."
Yeah, I would fucking.
Do you want to stay for dinner?
Yeah, like, do you want a beer? I know you're a health freak, but do you want a beer?
Oh, he's chugged a beer on TV.
Oh, he has. Yeah, that's like his one beer a year, and no wonder he drinks it so fast.
Let's be honest, though. No one chugs like Mr. Stafford.
Dude, no one chugs like Tom Brady. It's actually genuinely impressive.
Is it sexy?
It was just pretty good. It was really
he drinks a 16-ounce beer like it's a 1-ounce shot.
Well, and whose show was that on? Was that Kimmel?
Yeah, I think so.
Which Kimmel, he was on the Man Show, and Kimmel's had a few years of chugging beers. Remember that? Him and Corolla used to.
Oh no, yeah, I was on the Colbert Show.
Oh, was that Colbert?
Yeah, do you want to watch it?
Yeah,
we don't have time, do we?
Yeah, probably not.
All right, I'll watch it later.
All right. No, so also Zach, loving that ergonomic keyboard you got there.
Thanks. I'm doing my job behind this computer.
You're the man.
Well, my dick may quit.
I also use an ergonomic keyboard. I just noticed it. I noticed your hand positioning. I was like, oh, very nice.
I never thought I would adjust.
You got to reduce on that carpal tunnel.
I never thought I'd adjust, and now I can't. It's really hard not to use one. My buddy AJ, who went to LC forever ago, and he used to work at my company as an IT guy, so he's probably the guy who dishes these out. Well, that's true. That's highly accurate. But
Jesse, this is good. They probably thought they were in the wrong house. Am I in Tom Brady's house?
I would be in my pajamas and I would second guess, like,
right, looking at pictures of your family and shit on the wall. Like, is this? No, this is still mine. Okay, I just.
Tom Brady just walks in and starts putting up pictures of his own,
and you're like, fine, this is fine.
This is fine. We'll take Jeter's house. This is all fine. But no, my buddy AJ, who used to work for the company that I do, saw a picture of me, my ergonomic keyboard, because I sent him a picture of the coffee that he makes. He makes coffee, and so I had him drop some off at my house, and I sent him a picture of it. And he's like, "Oh, you got the Clearwater Special, I see." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't like those at first, and now I have to use them." I'm like, "Same."
I had one for work. It actually just broke recently. I have another one waiting for me at the office when I go there, but I had to go get a temporary one for my house, and it's not ergonomic because Walmart didn't have anything. I needed one that day. So I have a regular keyboard I'm using right now. So weird. So weird.
I can use the one on my laptop, and that's probably it, Natalie, because I've had this laptop forever.
You have had that laptop forever. It's still good.
Yeah, I mean, I just changed the guts out, you know. He's got to change the guts.
Change the guts, baby. You got to rearrange the guts. That's what they always say.
Before I get into my top probably 5, I do want to give some honorable mentions.
Okay.
I'll give one honorable mention, one head scratcher that isn't the Eagles because they just did bad. So they don't get an honorable mention because they just did bad. But the honorable mention for a team that didn't even have a first-round pick is the LA Rams. I was ready to blast them, and I was getting pretty pumped and just saying they did a terrible job. But then they come out of the gate in the second round. They get Cam Akers from Florida State, one of the best running backs in the draft. So they have an instant replacement to Todd Gurley. If you are a fantasy person, that is especially if you do a keeper league, that's a money guy to get. Van Jefferson also in the second round, really good wide receiver from Florida. And I think what helps, they didn't have a first, but they had 2 seconds and 2/3, and they nailed on both. And then I believe they actually picked up, Bryson Hopkins from Purdue in the 4th, who I thought was probably one of the sneaky picks for best tight end in the entire draft. So kind of a steal. Another honorable mention, just because I think they did get the best running back in the draft, is the Kansas City Chiefs going with Clyde Edwards out of LSU. So that pick alone to me says the Chiefs offense is now even better, which is terrifying because they didn't lose anybody.
And I have a mention for picks that I thought were pretty conservative but pretty good. I liked what the Giants have done. Getting a couple offensive tackles. Let's protect this guy. We still don't really know what he is, but it's hard for Saquon Barkley to run it down their throat when he can't get any holes. And I think the two guys they got are good. Especially
they got a guy out of Oregon in the 5th. Yeah, they got a guy out of Oregon in the 5th. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is just an absolute stud. So they got the best tackle in the draft. That's
pretty cool. They did some good stuff. Considering last year is the year where they got, just roasted for their picks. This year I felt like, okay, building on last. Okay, cool.
So then we talked about the Boise State guy earlier, so that's got to give another honorable mention to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Honestly, I should have the Vikings in my top 5 the more I look at it. To get a safety like Troy Dye as late as the 4th round out of Oregon. They got, obviously, Ezra from Boise State in the 2nd, which is a extremely good left tackle. And then they had 2 first-rounders, I think. So Justin Jefferson to replace their needs at wide receiver with Diggs gone. The Vikings kind of nailed it. I probably should have put them in my top 5. I think I snuck in the Dolphins instead just because I feel like the Dolphins did a very conservative approach all the way through, but conservatively best guy available.
Still got the guy they wanted. They still got the quarterback too. I mean, they still got exactly who they wanted at.
Right. They got the best quarterback at 5th. I mean, it helps when you have 3 first-rounders. Austin Jackson, so they immediately go get a tackle to protect him, and then they sneak in a cornerback for their last pick of the first round. So their first round alone, I would say, makes them the top 5 for me. So the head scratcher for, I don't know if anyone else agrees, but the biggest head scratcher for me was the Raiders.
Yeah.
They get Henry Ruggs, so they went speed over proven just all around wide receiver by passing up on CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. Not saying Henry Ruggs can't be extremely dynamic. They said half of every time he caught the ball in college, it was a touchdown. And obviously he was the fastest guy in the draft class. But just classic Raiders. Like, let's go speed over like proven skill.
I'm on this ABC article or CBS article, sorry, and they have the Raiders and they're losers too.
Well, and then for their first, they had the 19th pick of the draft, and they get the second Ohio State corner taken when they got Damon Arnett, and most people didn't have him projected as a first and maybe even a second round player. I like some of their picks since then. They went back to back in the third with the 16th and 17th pick with 2 more wide receivers. So it seems like they're saying we're going to draft all the wide receivers, and hopefully one of them is good.
Well, and they don't have any picks after the 4th round.
Yeah, so
they're out of picks.
Yeah, so they're already done. There's a couple teams that are completely done for the day already. You already mentioned the Colts. They were probably 1 or 2 for me, but since we already talked about them, and definitely Miami as well. My other winner would be the Jaguars. Jaguars seem like every year one of their top corners. They always draft good corners. Requests to get traded to a different team. This is happening again this year, as it did last year. So they immediately went and addressed it and got C.J. Henderson, who was my favorite corner. That's who I was hoping fell to the Falcons.
Do you think he'll do you think he'll request to get traded again?
Oh, he'll request to get traded for sure. No, one thing they've said about the Jaguars draft this year is that they went after like high character guys, which, by the way, the guy who's currently on the Jaguars, if you're not reading his tweets back and forth with their general manager, they are fucking hilarious. Like, he's like demanding trades over Twitter, and the GM's like ranting back and forth with him, basically saying like, well, you know, if you put a good product out there, we can trade you. Like, make yourself worthy of another team wanting you, and we'll do it, basically.
God, that's hilarious.
And so he's just like, come on, man, I don't need a lecture, just trade me. And then he's just like, by the way, I really think you've improved your status or whatever, like your grade as a player with all the tweets you've sent today. And it's just hilarious. Like, the GM's just totally owning him, like outsmarting him, saying all the right stuff, but in like a very PC way to only make the guy look like a bad dude.
It's like he's approaching it. He's approaching his roasts, but he's approaching it as like a human resources professional.
Yeah, and he's just fucking killing it. It's been really fun to read. So Jaguars, to me, have just won the week. But they got Clavon Chase on from LSU with their other first-round picks. So they address and they get one of the best corners, one of the best linebackers, and then every single pick they've made since then, they got Chenault out of Colorado, a wide receiver who's just really like multi-versatile, can play multiple positions guy. Their draft has been awesome, and then I was ready to talk about him, and then they drafted Colin Johnson, one of my favorite wide receivers from Texas, later on in the draft. So no complaints here from what the Jaguars have done. I think they've just done an outstanding job. So they're probably up there for me. And then I had one more, but I'm trying to remember who it was. Let me check my notes.
I'm reading more about this. As you've been talking, I've been reading more about this Anthony McFarland that the Steelers picked up, and I'm getting a little excited, actually.
I think the Steelers have had a better draft than you would expect. Like, I know they kind of went with some no-namers.
You're probably right. They probably planned on taking this running back the entire time. Maybe if Taylor would have been available, maybe they would have taken him.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet you, I mean, as I said before the show even started, it's easy to be like an armchair GM. But I'm not a part of the team. I don't know. And I've never played professional football. And I don't watch tape. I watch games, but I don't watch tape.
Sorry, it's hard to watch the tape. It's hard.
It's hard to watch the tape.
First off, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't have the tape.
I have Gorilla.
You know who no one's giving credit to, and I think it's just because it was first pick of draft. We moved past it originally. Like, people aren't even talking about the Bengals, right? They got Joe Burrow. Duh, it was the obvious pick, and then people kind of just moved on. But it kind of makes you wonder if he really is that good. Do you know what I mean? Like, so good that it was just consensus. The Vegas odds were crazy. Like, it wasn't even close. to anyone else being predicted to go in the same order. So
was he good all around, like all through college, or was it
just his final year?
Final year.
His second to last year at LSU, numbers were extremely mediocre, and then at Ohio State, he couldn't even win the starting job. So if he would have stayed at Ohio State, the 1, 2, and 3 pick of the draft would have all been Buckeyes. So
okay, so why the hype then?
Because this last year was probably the greatest year any quarterback's ever had in the history of college football. Actually, it was the greatest year.
Although I want to give more, and he is a favorite of this show prior to Sean joining, even though he's been here the whole time, no doubt. But Zach and I also, we do love Ed Ogeron, and I do believe that Ed Ogeron is he's the reason why this kid's a success. Like I think Ed Ogeron is a really good coach. I think he's highly underrated his whole career. I think Ogeron will retire. And also, by the way, Zach and I are not LSU fans, but because of Ed Ogeron, both of us have. I don't hate that team anymore.
Yeah,
because I like Ed Ogeron.
I usually when I watch a national championship, I just have to root for whatever team I like or dislike less. Yeah. But this year it was pretty easy going in to say, oh, I want the Tigers to win. I can't remember what player it was. Oh, and by the way, I think they had 9, almost tying a record, or it was back and forth between them and Alabama. 9 players in the first 2 rounds of the draft. They might have gotten to 10. I didn't pay attention, but
between the 2 quarterbacks that were in the national championship this year, though, Zach, who do you think has a more realistically good career in the NFL? Do you think Trevor Lawrence will be a better NFL quarterback?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence.
I do think that.
Trevor Lawrence for sure. I think Trevor Lawrence is like.
I do think he is the better of the 2 quarterbacks.
He's like a Andrew Luck coming out of college, where it's just a no-brainer. Where to me, Joe Burrow would be more of a comparison to like a Matt Ryan. Where, he'll be in the league for 12, 15 years, but he'll never be the best. Like, if he's on the right team, he can be like Matt Ryan and win an MVP, which, I mean, happened. But
not in Cincinnati.
But Andrew Luck was so good that he made the Colts good when they had nobody. And that's the type of player Trevor Lawrence is.
I just hope that Trevor Lawrence doesn't have the same curse when he goes to a team, which is that they have no offensive line for the first 5 to 6 years of his career, and he just gets hurt beyond repair.
Yep.
But I do personally think, and I think we were texting each other during the national championship game where it was like we were watching it, and it's like, man, if the Clemson Tigers win this game, it's on the back of Trevor Lawrence. Like the guy was making plays. I mean, he was phenomenal in that game. In a losing game, I thought he looked better than Joe Burrow. Like, it was impressive.
Right. I remembered who my last team was. It was my number 1 team. We didn't get there yet, which we kind of buried it at the beginning. But it was the Ravens. Ravens had the best draft, in my opinion. Probably because it was like typical Ravens fashion where they find a way to get like 2nd and 3rd round picks where you're like, oh, that's a sexy 3rd round pick. Like they find a way to draft late players where you kind of go, oh, obviously, like J.K. Dobbins at the end of the 2nd round.
Yeah, and also
absolutely.
I was gonna text you guys yesterday when the Ravens were on the board before they took J.K. Dobbins. Honestly, I was gonna say I'm not surprised here if they take somebody like Jalen Hurts though. Mm-hmm. I would not have been surprised. And in that case, though, it wouldn't have been an alarm. I don't think it would have been an alarm to anyone, though, right? If they would have taken Jalen Hurts, I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, watch out Lamar Jackson. I think everybody would have been like, oh, this makes sense.
I think I would have been alarmed that they maybe think that RG3 can't be that person anymore. That's the same player to me. RG3 and Jalen Hurts to me are like the same player. Except for RG3 is better.
Well, I just mean to have the 3 of them, honestly. Like
I don't think you need it. That would have been a wasted pick. If there's one team that doesn't waste picks, it's the Ravens. Like every one of these picks
Dobbins is a better idea. It's just if they would have taken Jalen Hurts, it wouldn't have been something that surprised me.
Yeah. It's just Ingram is 30. Their running back is 31 years old.
Yeah.
They proved last year that they really didn't have a second option that wasn't their quarterback for running the football. So Dobbins is a steal at that point. They had 2 third-round picks. They get a defensive tackle, and then Devin Duvernay from Texas, who is like a 100-meter dash champion, and also had 100 catches this year in college, which is insane. So
yeah,
Ravens entire draft, and they got a couple offensive linemen just in case after that.
Yeah.
Their draft is nasty. Those boys is nasty.
Yeah.
I hate them.
I understand why people would hate them after watching this. Their drafts are good every year.
Yeah, it's still so funny. I have to say it every time we talk about this team, but as a Steelers fan, I don't hate the Ravens. I just don't. It's weird. I know I should. I hate the Browns and I hate the Bengals.
How dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. It's just the way it is. Also, I still wouldn't have been. I would have liked to have seen. So I mean, I like the picks that we ended up getting. I actually would have been cool seeing a quarterback getting drafted too. I hope that we make a move in the offseason, though. We get somebody else to replace. I think we get rid of Rudolph altogether.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
I would like to see them go out. I still think there's a chance we go out and get Jameis Winston.
That's what this says to me, is that they're not making, like, clearly whoever they did want didn't fall into their lap. So they probably intentionally did that to say, like, if the guy we want doesn't fall into our lap, we will finally go get Jameis Winston or Cam Newton or somebody on like a 2-year deal. That way there's 1 year as Ben's backup and 1 year to prove himself afterwards, and then we can cut ties with him after that if necessary.
Because Ben's only got this. Is this the last year of the contract, or is this the last?
I think he restructured it, so I think he's got a couple years on it now. But I don't. He'll probably not play all the years on his contract. It's like Drew Brees. Drew Brees isn't going to play both years he signed.
Well, and I also still, I've said this before on the show, but I also actually still think that I think Ben's future is actually as a quarterback's coach. I think the Steelers hire him after he's done. I could see it. I could see him coaching with Tomlin. I could see him being a quarterback's coach at first. I could see him going offensive coordinator at some point. The guy runs a really good no-huddle offense.
I'm with you. He just kind of looks like a coach, especially right now.
He does, especially when he was big fat Ben on the sidelines with that giant beard. He looked like a coach, and
but he looks like he should be an offensive line coach, not a quarterback's coach.
That's true. That is true. That's
Sean, your team has had a draft, sure, but they've also been more active than any other team as far as trades. They just went and got probably one of the best offensive tackles in the league, Trent Williams, but there's a reason why, right?
Yeah, Joe Staley's retired.
Yeah,
so
for health reasons.
What happened with that? I saw that he was retired, but what was the official reason?
Health concerns.
Yeah, health
concerns.
Poor guy.
He there was a whole statement, big thing written out. Pretty sad. If anybody deserves a Super Bowl in the entire league, I think it's Joe Staley.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Poor guy.
But I mean, is currently in the league, is besides for maybe the Patriots, is there any team? Well, and the guys also just dealt with the Patriots this week. So, is there any team that's as good at, instead of worrying about the draft, just trading for players they can use right now? Is there anyone better than the 49ers currently? I mean, they do it mid-season, pre-draft, during draft, post-draft.
They just do it. They just did
the other team, yeah. There is one other team, and it was the team that traded the WWE 24/7 championship for a draft pick.
That was ridiculous, man.
That's why I said the Patriots. I said the Patriots.
I know you did. I just wanted to make the WWE 24/7 championship joke again.
Literally, a guy who didn't play for a year was technically retired, but was he like still under contract? I don't get how that works.
Trent?
He must have been.
Or Gronk.
Gronk, yeah.
He must have been. He must have still had.
Yeah, he still has a year left of his contract. He had 2 years left when he retired.
Okay.
So that's what happens when you retire while you're still
Well,
under
did you guys
contract.
watch that?
You're still under contract if you come out of retirement.
Did you watch that interview with him? It's from like last year, I think, or maybe the year before, but they're talking to him about how he was supposed to be traded to the Lions, and he's like really super casual, and he's like, "Oh no, man, I'm retired. I'm retired now." And then they didn't trade him, and then he came out of retirement and stayed on the Patriots. Like they were gonna trade him, but then he was like, "No, I'm retired." Like one of the reasons why he retired before, like in those past seasons where he threatened retirement every year, is because he was going to get traded to the Lions and was like, no, I'm retired. Like there's an interview with him and he's super casual about it.
I think that's smart, man. I wouldn't.
Well, yeah, I just think it's funny how casual he is about it. He's like laughing about it, like, oh no, I'm retired. And he does that like little Gronk laugh. That
yeah, he's such a big old fairy. He really is. No, so I mean, Trent Williams is, in my opinion, an upgrade. Staley was 35.
Yeah,
They only needed to trade a 5th round this year and a 3rd round next year to get him. So once again, they're like the rich get richer, and they didn't give a ton to get him. I mean, it's just a matter of reaching out to the right team at the right time. They also traded Marquise Goodwin. I don't know what they got for that, but I mean, they've been very active.
Honestly, I'm not even sad about seeing Goodwin or Breida go.
Well, you don't get to see him on the field, so
yeah, exactly. They're always hurt. I mean, yeah, Breida has some explosive plays, but Raheem Moster's my one true love now. So,
and all you need is him and Tevin Coleman. Like that's all. Like you don't need more than 2 guys.
Yeah, and then like sometimes they throw Richie James back there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's or there. I think there's a Wilson too, or somebody. I can't remember.
Well, Wilson was the one who came on last year as like the new 3rd guy.
Yeah, and he had some huge plays. Like he had some really good touchdowns.
So can we all three take a moment to recognize not just a head scratcher, but actually I think a loser of the draft, who is continually a loser of the draft, and I love it, and I hope Patrick is watching. But that was the Seattle Seahawks. I think again bumbled it. No support for Russell Wilson. We apparently this team does not give a shit about this quarterback. We're just going to waste his prime completely. Let's draft more defense. More defense, man. They didn't get him anybody.
Yep.
I mean, I like the defensive picks that they made, though.
I like the defensive picks too, but it's just like still, yet again, the Seattle Seahawks team is going to go into another season and they're going to put the entire offense on the shoulders of Russell Wilson, who, by the way, of all that team, I like Russell Wilson. I just don't like that team.
I hate him.
Yeah, I mean, defense.
He's greasy.
They did get an offensive guard, a tight end, and a running back. So, I mean, they got him late. Right? They drafted as much offense as defense. They just didn't do it early. And
we got one of their tight ends last year, and he was great.
But, I mean, that's what the Seahawks do. They're gonna draft a new, like, speedy middle linebacker every single year.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep them all, but they find a way to turn all these guys into even more value. And also, man, they have DK Metcalf coming into year 2. Like, the dude's just an absolute monster.
I do like him, actually.
They don't even make humans like that. He's not real.
I like him as well.
So I think they're fine. I think that their defense is young and they need to add more pieces to it. And it's the formula that won them a championship before. So
I'm mostly saying this because I read Andy King's Twitter, and I know he watches the show and will watch it. And I love you, Andy, but I also love making fun of your team.
Yeah.
Another team that it's like to be determined, but maybe had a good draft is the Jets. I like Denzel Mims, like I like every other wide receiver that's in the draft. Like they're all good, but they went out and got another wide receiver, couple of defensive players, and then they in the 4th round actually drafted finally a backup because they've had super old backups at quarterback the last couple of years, and they went out and got James Morgan at Florida International. I thought a team that would be more likely to develop him he'd go to, not a team that has a 21-year-old starting quarterback, but. Certain quarterbacks get drafted and they're lifer backups in the NFL, and I think he was like the first guy off the board where I'm like, yep, that's a lifer. He's going to be a 12-year backup in the NFL.
Yeah,
maybe longer. He's going to be one of those guys who can back up till he's 40 because he'll never start. So yeah, the Jets may have. I don't know. I prefer not to give them any credit. The Bills had a super Bills draft. I mean, that's just what they do. They draft guys that are gritty, like bruiser type players, running back, defensive ends that there's no flash to them at all, but they make Pro Bowls somehow. So Bills just got better. That division's interesting.
I think Buffalo takes it.
I mean, Buffalo should be the easy favorite after last year and what happened to the Patriots, but people got to look out for the quick turnaround in Miami. Miami's coming.
I just have too many friends that.
Sorry.
No, I just have too many friends that are Miami fans, so fuck them.
If Tua starts from the get-go and stays healthy, man, they put a lot around him, and they're still continuing to put stuff around him. And their defense is good. So
yeah,
Miami's coming. I hate to say it. I hope the Bills win the division every year, but Miami's coming.
I'm still really interested to see the Patriots and the Buccaneers this year, just to see which of those two teams does better.
I didn't even mention it because I was going to avoid it, but even the Bucs had a good draft, man.
They did.
For the picks that they picked exactly the perfect players. I'm not overly I'm not going to freak out about Tom and Gronk because they got a couple of old ass dudes. Gronk's body's probably destroyed. Tom Brady's no matter what 40 whatever.
Gronk doesn't look.
We saw Frankenstein Gronk out there on that defensive player. Remember we played that and it was fun.
But
like old Frankenstein's monster out there.
Does he not look as big to you guys too though? Like he's slimmed down.
We cut a lot of LBs. They said naturally his upper body probably isn't that big unless he's constantly weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
So he is going to have to gain a lot of that back.
Well, I think he was also trimming down a little bit to do wrestling. I think he wanted to be a little lighter weight for wrestling, and in the wrestling world, a lot of guys are a little more lean. I think he honestly really did want to be a wrestler.
I think he wanted to be more nimble and light on the dance floor, but just so bigger, stronger men could pick him up and hold him.
I'm also wondering, is there any chance we see, like in the middle of a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, we see a bunch of people run out onto the field and try to pin Gronk for the 24/7 WWE Championship?
I hope it's like while he's on the sideline, like he's just trying to get some water.
What if there's the chance that Gronk is doing this to promote more that he has the championship and he's a wrestler now?
I like you. So you know how they sit when it's cold? Actually, this would never happen because it's in Tampa, but maybe it'll be when they're on the road. You know when they sit with those like heater like coat things over them? I like to imagine that he's sitting next to, we think, another Tampa Bay Buccaneer like this, and then the guy whips it off, and it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. He pulls the helmet off.
Yeah,
cracks the cold one. DDTs him, stunners him,
turns him for that 24/7 championship, and it's been that the whole time. It's been a work.
Yeah,
it's been a whole work whole time.
Their fifth string tight end was Elias the entire time.
Oh my god, I love it, man!
That'd be the only time Elias was ever cool.
What an amazing show that would be. Okay, I want to know from the both of you, who do you think will be the better team? So I'm honestly, because here's the real thing about Tampa Bay and New England. I think they're both in just as tough a divisions as each other, right? Like I honestly think
the NFC South is the toughest division in football.
Well, I still think
you're talking about the Powder Puff AFC, bud.
But I mean, you got the Bills. The Bills are good.
Their Bills are good, but there are 3 teams in the NFC South that are Super Bowl caliber teams.
All right.
But here's the thing. I think the NFC West is an even scarier division.
Oh, NFC West with the Niners and the Cardinals and the Rams and
Seattle.
And Seattle.
It's scary. I'm terrified as a Niners
Who's
fan.
the toughest division? Well, what's the toughest division?
I think the West.
Well, hey, let's save that debate for next week, bud. Because I'm at time, but
you are okay. Well, hey, thanks for everybody. Are we good for this show? I think we covered it. Zach's got to get back to work.
I'm ready to fucking party.
I brought all the energy I could for 1 hour, and I blasted through it.
I love you boys. Zach, I'm really glad you could do the show for today. I'm glad you can make.
You need to tell your fucking employers to get their shit together, bro.
Yeah.
I think you just told them.
Send them my way.
Zach, tell them we said so.
Yeah.
We're nobody to them.
I think you just told them. I think you just told them. They got the link.
You tell them. You tell them that I said I'll employ.
You tell them we want our baby boy back.
We want our baby boy back.
We want our little baby boy back.
Yeah, it's not a real show if we don't pre-show for an hour, then do an extended 30 minutes on the show, and then post-show for 45.
Yeah.
And all day.
I can't tell if you're kidding or not, because that's literally what we do every week, and I love every minute of that.
I'll pay the troll toll to get you back, Zach.
And to get you into that boys hole.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for watching this show today. You have a great weekend.
Feliz Navidad.
Chime in on the chat on both YouTube and Facebook. Let us know what you think. We'll be back next week. I think next week we might be back on some games. We might be back on some Jackbox, maybe.
Yeah, because
I think we'll have more football to talk about, though.
I do
too. But we can talk about while we're playing. That'd be interesting.
True.
I agree. I say we pepper a little bit of both in.
I like that. I like that idea a lot.
And then the following week, the UFC is back with 3 straight nights. Not 3 straight nights, three nights in a week. Because they're like, wait a second, we can just go to Florida? They finally learned a little thing from WWE, and they're like, let's just go to Florida.
Also, I mean, to be honest, we have like 4 minutes left of this show. To be honest, things are looking up, right? I mean, we're kind of seeing May. We're kind of seeing some May stuff for things coming back.
Yeah.
For things going back to a little bit more normal. I mean, maybe we have sports by June.
Yeah, I mean, Idaho, at least down here, we've started that that 4-tier wave thing of getting people back out into the world. So
yeah, I hear I'll be back in my office by May 18th.
I don't think we'll be back in any sort of office till probably after June. We're gonna wait 2 weeks after whatever the last wave is, at least, to be on the err on the side of caution. I think more people
probably good.
Do that. I think everyone should be as cautious as possible because we don't want to get hit with a second wave of this shit.
No, and by the way, I will mention on the show, one of the reasons why I would opt to go back to work is because I would be by myself completely in my office. I would not be doing this if I was going to be locked in the same room with a bunch of COVID-19 people. Like, I will be alone, which is why I will go back. Like, I would go back, but
hell yeah. Brother.
I don't want no COVID-19 shit. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Later, everybody.